In the gritty backdrop of South Boston, the scene opens with a violent busing protest, a stark reminder of the racial tensions of the era. Amidst this chaos, young Costello, a figure of authority and influence in the neighborhood, moves with an air of ownership. Costello's philosophy is one of survival and observation, a trait he seems to be imparting to Colin. He is seen as a provider, giving Colin food and necessities, but also as a manipulator, planting the seeds of a criminal mindset. Costello's voiceover reflects on the Irish community's rise from oppression to power, a journey marked by violence and determination, with Costello encouraging Colin to question authority and make his own path. Colin's journey through the police academy is a testament to his determination and ambition. He stands out as a model cadet, excelling in both the classroom and on the firing range. His interactions with fellow cadet Berrigan reveal his aspirations to rise above his humble beginnings and claim a piece of Boston's elite society for himself. Despite the camaraderie and roughhousing with his peers, Colin's focus remains unwavering, his eyes set on a future where he is more than just a cop. Meanwhile, Billy's experience at the academy is marked by a sense of isolation and introspection. He endures the grueling training with a stoic resolve, driven by an inner purpose that sets him apart from his peers. His father's funeral serves as a poignant reminder of his roots and the life he is striving to transcend. As both men navigate their paths, they remain unaware of each other's presence, their lives running parallel yet untouched. He's decided to go undercover for the police, which means he'll pretend to be a criminal and even spend time in jail to make it look real. Meanwhile, Colin is a cop who's involved in a case about stolen microprocessors. At the same time, Billy reconnects with his family in South Boston, showing them he's no longer a cop but doesn't reveal his undercover mission. Billy and Christopher are hanging out, drinking beer and talking about old times. Christopher mentions a guy from school he used to fight with, who just died. They talk about money, and Billy says he has some cash from his mom's insurance. He hints he might want to get into some shady business with Christopher. Later, at a bar, Billy orders a cranberry juice, and a guy makes fun of him, so Billy punches him. Mr. French, a tough guy in the bar, tells Billy there are certain people you can't hit, and he's lucky this time. Mr. French knows Billy's family, and warns him not to get into more trouble. Outside, Colin and his partner Berrigan are trying to get information from Mrs. Quincannon about her son's death, but she's not helping. Colin sees Costello, the gangster, drive by and notices they're being watched by undercover cops. Colin and Madeline have a flirty conversation in an elevator. Colin is a bit of a show-off, telling her he's studying law at night. She gives him her card, and they might go out for dinner. After that, Colin gets a phone call about being followed by the feds. Billy stands up to some tough guys in a coffee shop, showing he's not afraid of them or their boss, Costello. He gets into a fight and breaks his hand. Meanwhile, Colin is out having a fancy dinner with Madeline, talking about her job as a psychiatrist. They joke around, and Colin seems to like her. They decide to take a walk after dinner. Back in the bar, Costello tells Billy that the guys he fought are connected to the mafia, and they'll want revenge. Costello offers to help Billy, but it's obvious he's also using this as a way to control him. Billy agrees to Costello's help, knowing he's in a tough spot. Costello talks to Billy about his past and how he knew Billy's dad. He tells Billy to stay away from his cousin who's causing trouble. Costello then checks if Billy is hiding anything and breaks his cast to make sure. He gives Billy some money and tells him to dress better and call him later. Costello also makes a joke in the bar and then talks about how he controls things. Later, Colin sees two dead bodies and makes a phone call about them. Costello is also on the phone, planning to blame someone else for the crime. He then talks to Billy about being smart and making choices. Billy gets involved in some rough situations, showing he's tough and can handle himself in the criminal world. He even deals with a gun dealer in a tough way to show he's in charge. Billy is deep undercover, and things are getting intense. He's involved in some dangerous situations, like dealing with gun sellers and protecting his cousin from getting killed. Billy's cousin is in trouble for doing drugs, but Billy helps him escape to Florida, because he's frustrated with how long it's taking to catch Costello, the big boss he's trying to bring down. Colin, another cop, is also involved in some shady stuff. He pretends to be a lawyer to help one of Costello's guys, Piero, avoid getting caught in a police raid. Colin is playing both sides, helping the police and Costello's gang. It's a tricky game, and both Billy and Colin are in deep, trying to keep their stories straight and stay alive. Colin is in the office and tries to cover up his tracks after using a cell phone for something sneaky. He's nervous but acts cool. Later, he's at a big police operation trying to catch a gangster named Costello. Colin secretly warns Costello about the police being onto him. Costello and his gang are making a deal with some Chinese guys, and they manage to escape without the police catching them. Colin is playing a dangerous game, helping both the police and the gangsters. Billy and Colin are both dealing with a lot of stress. Colin is moving into a new apartment with Madeline, and they're talking about their future and the stuff they've accumulated over the years. Meanwhile, Colin gets a call from Costello, who tells him there's a rat in his gang and he needs to find out who it is. Colin is worried but tries to act normal. Billy is freaking out and thinks he might be in danger because there's a rat in the police department. He's talking to Dignam, who's alone in the office, and they're trying to figure out how to find the rat without getting caught. Billy is really scared and ends up having a panic attack at the airport. Billy, a cop who's undercover, has a tough talk with Madeline, a therapist. He's frustrated and doesn't want to open up about his feelings or his work. Madeline tries to get him to talk, but he's not having it. He even asks for Valium to help him cope. Madeline offers her help, but Billy isn't sure he wants it. Later, Colin meets Costello in a cinema where they discuss Colin's new assignment to find a mole within their organization. Costello is amused by the irony since Colin is the mole. Billy follows Colin from the cinema, trying to see who he is, but Colin manages to escape without being recognized. Billy is getting more involved in Costello's criminal activities, and Costello trusts him with more responsibility, even though he suspects there's a spy in his group. Colin is also dealing with his own fears of being caught as the mole. Billy is feeling the pressure of being undercover and is worried about being accused of being a rat in Costello's criminal organization. He tells Costello he's not the rat, and warns him about the dangers of his lifestyle. Meanwhile, Colin is dealing with his new role in internal affairs, where he's supposed to find the mole in the police department. He's also trying to cover his tracks as the actual mole. Colin and Queenan discuss strategies to find the informer, and Colin starts searching police records for clues. Colin is working hard in his new office job, trying to find a mole in the police department. He's also thinking about moving out of Boston with Madeline. Meanwhile, Billy is getting suspicious of new guys working with Costello, the crime boss. He calls his police contact to meet because he's worried about his safety. Colin is watching other police officers, trying to track down the mole, which is actually him. Billy is also dealing with Delahint, who jokingly accuses him of being a cop because Billy and Queenan are in a dangerous situation. Queenan is being followed by Barrigan and his team. They think Queenan might be meeting with Costello's men. Billy warns Queenan that they're coming for him. Queenan decides to stay and face them, while Billy escapes down the scaffolding. As Billy gets away in a taxi, Queenan is thrown off the building and lands on the taxi. Barrigan and his team see everything and are shocked. They grab Billy, thinking he's late for something, and they all leave in a van. It's a tense and scary moment for everyone involved. Barrigan is in a van with his team, instructing them not to pursue. Colin, in his office, calmly tells them not to follow. However, a team member disobeys and gets shot by Costello's men. Meanwhile, Costello is aware of the police's moves and continues his criminal activities, unfazed by the heat on him. Billy is feeling the strain of his undercover work, and is considering leaving for his safety. Colin, now feeling guilty, tries to find out who called Queenan's phone last, leading him to Billy. Billy, realizing he's in danger, starts to pack to leave. Colin and Costello continue their dangerous game of cat and mouse, with Colin trying to maintain his cover while Costello moves forward with his plans. Billy finds out that Delahint, an undercover policeman, was the rat and has been killed. Costello, the crime boss, is unfazed by the news and continues with his plans to move drugs. Colin, a police officer who's secretly working for Costello, warns him about being followed by the police. Costello cleverly avoids the tail and proceeds with the drug deal. However, the police ambush them, and a shootout ensues. Costello escapes into a parking garage, where Colin confronts and kills him. Colin then returns to the police office, where he's applauded for his actions, but he feels guilty because he's actually been helping Costello all along. Dignam, another officer, is suspicious of how Colin managed to find Costello without access to certain files. Billy confronts Colin on a rooftop, suspecting him of being involved in criminal activities. They have a tense standoff, which is interrupted by Brown, another officer. Billy tries to explain the situation, but Brown is killed by Barrigan, who then reveals he's also corrupt and needs Colin's help. Colin agrees, but when Barrigan lets his guard down, Colin shoots him. Later, at Billy's funeral, Madeline is distant from Colin, who is now feeling the weight of his actions. He returns home, only to be confronted and killed by Dignam, who is seeking justice. Dignam leaves Colin's apartment as a rat appears, symbolizing the ongoing corruption despite the apparent resolution. The story ends with a sense of unresolved tension and the cycle of betrayal continuing.